Hey, it's Ryan Gillard here with Real Broker, your Calgary Realtor. The spring market is here. The market is red hot and we have the lowest inventory level since 2006, and pretty much everything is getting competing offers. In this video, I'll show you what you can do as a buyer to make your offer stand out and hopefully secure the home. This is a video that you're not going to want to miss. So I've listed a property for sale, I've priced it right, it shows well, it's going to be crazy. I tell the sellers, hey, let's activate this listing on a Thursday. Why don't you go away for the weekend if you can, and we'll allow all the showings during the weekend and we'll look at offers on a Monday. And I'll tell all of the agents, have your offers in by Monday at 12 p.m. And at that point, we will review the offers. Now, before I meet with the seller, I'll summarize each offer and I'll create a bit of a cheat sheet. And I'll either present all the offers in person, or again, I'll summarize them, or I can email them to the seller and I can go over them on the phone, whatever is easier for them. So here's a cheat sheet I made for a previous listing I sold. I think we had 6 offers, 30, 40 showings in a couple days. Bit of a crazy listing. And at the end of this video, I'll actually go over these offers in more detail and explain kind of what made us pick one offer over the other and what points kind of were red flags for the seller. And so next up, I'll just cover the main points of this cheat sheet. And point number 1 is price. Probably the most important, but it's not everything, but it is very important. And as a buyer in a competing offer situation, you want to offer a price high enough where you can secure the property. Like if there are 6 competing offers and you're under list price, it's probably not going to work out in your favor. Now you want to offer a price high enough that you're not angry that someone else outbid you by like a few $1,000s. So high enough to secure the listing, but not so high that you're angry and felt like you overpaid and they took advantage of you. So it's a bit of a fine line for the buyer. And again, price isn't everything, but it is very important. And sometimes you just have to take it on the chin. Like if you offer $500,000 on a property and somebody else offers $575,000, there's really not much you can do. So don't get attached to the outcome when you're a buyer in this situation, because you might have to go through a few properties to find one that works out for you. And point number 2, another big one, is possession, the closing date. So when I take new listings, I'm always surprised when I get offers that only some agents or realtors will actually call me asking about possession. It can be a deal breaker, especially if you have a tenant occupied property. Sometimes you'll get like weird possessions like April 20th, but there's a tenant in the property and it's not even 1 month's notice. So a lot of sellers want to do right by their tenants and they want to give them enough time as well. So maybe they're on a month-to-month contract, but the owner still wants to give them, say, 2 months to find a place. So if you know what the seller wants in terms of possession and give it to them, it gives you a leg up on the competition. So always check what they want for possession. And point number 3 is the deposit. So as a buyer, you can show your strength by having a larger deposit. And that said, the deposit still doesn't mean that much to me, because if it's a conditional sale, say it's conditional on home inspection and financing, you could get that deal for so many reasons and get your full deposit back quite easily. You could say, this rate I'm not happy with, the financing is no good, I want my deposit back. Or with the home inspection, there could be a scratch here and you're not okay with that, and get your full deposit back. So it's not that important, but it does show strength. And if you have 2 identical offers, one person has a deposit of $5,000 and one person has a $20,000 deposit, I would go with the $20K deposit. It adds extra security for the seller in case the buyer backs out down the road. Now, I've had this happen to me actually in the past. A couple of years ago on a Bears Paw property, it was a good home, probably $2.5 million, and we had the smallest deposit. It was like $3,000. So it just raises red flags if you have a small deposit, and this deal actually fell apart. So it can identify some red flags with a lower than normal deposit amount. And next up, let's talk about conditions. So obviously, if you're in a competing offer situation, if you have an unconditional offer, that's a huge advantage, but not everyone can do that. It is a bit scary and a bit risky. But if you have an unconditional offer, or if you have a shorter condition timeline, or if you have fewer conditions, that gives you an advantage. And I'll just go over the more common conditions that we see. So first up is financing. Now, typically the banks want like 10 business days, just because not every buyer has all their stuff together. So if you are thinking of going through this process, talk to your mortgage broker and give them everything that they need. All the tax documents, the income documents, your notice of assessments, everything. Make sure they pull your credit. And that will give you an advantage. Ask your broker how many days do they need to go from a pre-approval to a firm approval, and see if you can lower the amount of days that are necessary. If your conditions are only 5 days long and everybody else is 10 days, that gives you a major advantage. I would also ask to get a pre-approval letter from your lender and submit that with the offer. It's like, here, Mr. Seller, here's my pre-approval letter. I'm good to $500,000 and I'm putting 30% down. Now, if you have two identical offers and one person's putting 5% down and one person's putting down 30%, I would go with the 30% down. It's much easier to get approved. Less can go wrong. Now, if you're putting down 20% or more, you don't require mortgage default insurance, CMHC insurance, and there's a few other insurers as well. Now, why I bring this up is because you could have a condo sale, but not every insurer is okay with every condo complex. Some won't insure age-restricted buildings, and some won't insure post-tension cabled buildings, stuff like that. So if there are two identical offers, but one is putting 20% down and one is putting 5% down, I would definitely go with the one putting more down, because the options are, the chance of it getting approved are much better. So you don't want to have a situation where you accept an offer as pending on financing and it's a 2-week condition timeline. 2 weeks goes by and you get a call from the mortgage broker saying the deal fell apart. We couldn't find an insurer for this condo complex. Now you've wasted 2 weeks and you've lost all the momentum of the transaction and you're starting at zero again. And the last point here on financing, there are clients out there that are just super strong. They've got high income, low debts. They've talked to their mortgage broker, done the pre-approval, and they're just like golden clients. For people like this, they don't need to have a 10-day financing condition. They can often just get rid of it and just have a home inspection condition. And that gives them a big leg up on the competition. And while they're doing the home inspection, they can also give all the documents to their banker at the same time. And this could be a way to secure the property. There is some risk to this, but again, there are some clients that are just super strong and they know it and they're not gonna have any issues with financing. So that's the financing. Next up is the home inspection. Now, I would say for the vast majority of people, don't get rid of the home inspection condition. But there are some people that are tradesmen, handymen, that are qualified to go through a property and know what's good and what's bad. And if I was buying a property, I would always have a home inspection, unless I plan to do major renovations. Then maybe I would consider getting rid of it. But for most buyers, I would keep it in the contract. What you can do, though, is to stagger your condition timelines. So what I mean by that is most people will put down financing and home inspection 10 business days. What I would do is maybe do like 3 or 4 business days for the home inspection. So again, if you have two identical offers, but one person has financing, home inspection, 10 business days, the other person has a staggered condition timeline, so we'll need 3 days for the home inspection and then 10 days for the financing, I would go with that one because you'll have an answer regarding the home inspection in a couple days. You don't want to have 10 days go by and the buyer backs out because of the GFCI plugs or the furnace needs to be maintained or stuff like that. A lot of deals fall apart because of the home inspection, but at least you can offer them some kind of answer if it's good or bad within a couple days. And this could be the difference between getting the property or not getting it. And the next condition is the sale of a buyer's home condition. So these are people that have properties, they have to sell them before buying the next property. This is a bit tough in the hardcore seller's market. I mean, it makes sense if you had 10 offers and they're all fantastic and one of those offers has this condition, I wouldn't accept it because it ties your home up, it's a bit uncertain, and it's just not worth it for the most part. Unless it's some crazy price, I probably wouldn't look at these offers. What you can do though, if you are in this situation, is list your property, get it sold, try to get a very long possession date or a flexible possession date that you can adjust if you find a property sooner, and then buy the next property afterwards. Easier said than done, but it's not impossible. I've done quite a few of these transactions, and I've got a video specifically on this topic, which you can find right here. The next point is the escalation clause. Now, this could be the difference between securing the property or not getting it. It's a bit of a sly maneuver, but it does work. I've seen it accomplished quite a few times. Now, what this is, you're writing an offer, say $500,000, but we have a term in there saying, I will pay you $1,000 more than the nearest competitor up to $520,000. That's the limit. It's just a sly way to escalate the price up to a certain amount. And it could be the difference between securing the property or not getting it. And moving along, let's talk about terms. So kind of similar to conditions, but slightly different. So conditions have a deadline. If that deadline passes, the offer is dead. With terms, they kind of go along with the contract until it completes. So some common terms are professional cleaning, you know, furnace cleaning, fireplace cleaning, junk removal, pre-possession walkthroughs, minor repairs, stuff like that. So terms are pretty common. You see them in most offers. But if you are in a competing offer situation and one offer is very clean and one offer has a whole bunch of terms that might be a bit annoying for the seller, they might just go with the other offer. So my advice in a competing offer situation, if you have like 6 or 7 offers, I would try to keep your terms very, very sensible from the seller's perspective, because again, you are up against other offers, and the best terms, price, and conditions are what the seller is going to pick. And the next point, have they visited the property in person? Now, I ask this because there are a lot of relocation buyers coming to Calgary now from Ontario and British Columbia. And nothing wrong with that. It's just I've had some issues where the buyer hasn't seen the property in person. They show up and now there's all sorts of issues. They want this fixed, they want that fixed. It could be some uncertainty and some headache down the road for the seller. So it's always best if the buyer has physically seen the property in person. Now, this is not always possible, but there are things you can do like video walkthroughs and stuff like that. Again, not always possible, but it's best if the buyer has physically seen the property. And the last point here is communication. Sometimes deals come together simply because the two agents get along. The two agents are easy to get a hold of. There's a lot of back and forth, and they're just more cooperative. And sometimes the other agent has just gone AWOL. Like, they won't answer their phone, they won't respond to texts or emails, they vanished. And that could cost the buyer a transaction. So you want to be able to communicate if you are the buyer's realtor, and just be available. And last up, I'm going to take you through a cheat sheet for a property that we just sold, and we had 6 offers. And just to give you kind of like a practical idea of what it looks like. So the first offer, $530,000, June 1st possession, $10K deposit. There was a condition subject to the buyer's satisfaction of viewing the property. So this is a bit of a red flag. They haven't even seen the property yet, and what happens if they view the property, they might not like it, and then they cancel the sale. So this is a bit of a red flag. I don't think I would probably go for this in this situation. For the terms, they had multiple walkthroughs, no escalation clause, no in-person visit. Offer number 2, $560,000, so it's a higher price than the previous offer. Closing date of May 15th, $10K deposit, no conditions, so unconditional offer. There are some terms for walkthroughs, no problem with that. Escalation clause, no. In-person visit, yes. So I would take offer 2 over offer 1. Offer number 3, $525,000, April 1st possession, deposit of $30,000, no conditions, but there is a sneaky term in here. Subject to the buyer's satisfaction of a real property report conducted by a lawyer. So they want the lawyer to review the real property report. And this is kind of written as a condition, but they put it in the terms section. So I don't know if the agent is trying to be sneaky or they just don't know the difference, but this should actually be a condition, not a term. But it adds some red flags and it adds some uncertainty. So I think I would still take offer 2 over offer 3. And there's no escalation clause, and they have visited in person. Offer number 4, $550,000, May 7th possession, $25K deposit. There is a home inspection condition that lasts 10 days. Now again, a home inspection takes 2 to 3 hours to conduct. So I would probably, if we were to take something like this, I'd ask them, you need to lower the timeline for your home inspection. There is a walkthrough for the terms, no escalation clause, and there was an in-person visit. So I think if it were me, I'd still take offer 2 over the other offers. Offer number 5, $550,888, closing date of May the 1st, deposit $10,000. There is a home inspection condition. I think it was a week. I forgot to write it in here. Now, this is an important one. I put it in bold letters here. So the terms, the buyer assumes the tenant and the seller can leave any unwanted items in the home. So this is important because even though it's less than $560, sometimes it's annoying to deal with tenants, and you might have to give them like 3 months notice. So it can be kind of like a pain. So even though it's less money, they might take something like this. So it's not always about the cash. Sometimes if you can give them easy terms, they might go for your offer. And no escalation clause, and there was an in-person visit. Offer number 6, $525,000. Closing date of April the 23rd, $10K deposit. Now they put in some dower form, even though dower doesn't apply for this transaction. I don't know why they put that in there. And they also added some illegal grow-op form. So they've added some extra paperwork. There were no conditions. There were some terms, though. They wanted a walkthrough and some junk removal from the property, no escalation clause, and no in-person visit. So in this situation, I think offer number 2 and offer number 5 are the two best ones. And to handle it, it's always up to the seller what they want to do. They can go back to every offer and tell them, you know, adjust your offer, send us your best foot forward, and it'll make a decision. Or they might cancel this one. They might not cancel. They might counter one individually. They might say to this person right here, if you offer $565, we'll go for yours. So it's always up to what the seller wants to do. It's always a bit different. But I think the two standout offers in this situation were offer 2 at $560,000 and offer 5. And you can go back up to them on anything. Everything is negotiable in real estate. You might tell offer number 2, we like yours the best. Could you make it $565? Maybe May the 30th possession, or maybe have an additional deposit after all conditions are removed. Stuff like that. So everything is negotiable. But this just gives you a sense of how they look in practice and what you might do, what you might expect as a counter offer from the seller. To summarize, it's not all about price. We've also got the possession date, deposit amount, conditions, terms, escalation clauses. There are many factors that go into offers in Calgary. And if you are a buyer or a seller out there and you could use some help, feel free to give me a call, 403-471-4212. I'd love to see what I can do to help you out. Thanks again for watching, and I'll see you on the next video.